and free coaching.
Mm.
All right.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to Stories That Connect Hot Seat Edition. I am Jen Lederer, a comedian and storytelling consultant, here to consult your stories, along with my fabulous partner in crime, Shannon Malkin Daniels. Shannon, who are you? What do they need to know?
All they need to know is that I'm a public speaking, communication, and confidence coach. I am not the funny one. That is Jen over there.
You say that every time, and I disagree with you every time. You are funny. There can be more than one funny person in a room. Let me just say.
Okay, I'm not purposely funny. Let me put it that way.
There we go. There we go.
Is that what you need to know about me? I help people really find their authentic voice and hone their message and then build their confidence so they can share their message with the world, their story with the world, because everybody's got a story to tell, including you out there. If you're listening or you're on here live, you have a story to tell. And I want you to be able to step in front of any audience, any room, any size stage and tell it with confidence. So that's what I do. And today we're here to drop some people in the hot seat. It's not about us, it's about you today. So we're going to put some people in the hot seat and let you put your storytelling skills to the test and get some free live coaching from the two of us.
Yep. So the way that this works is you literally just tell us about yourself. We want to see what stories are coming up when you don't have any prompt, when you don't have any direction. Where does your brain take you? There's no right or wrong. We want to just meet you where you are with this. And then we will start pulling different stories out of you and reflecting, here's what we heard and what could we use out of that to maybe make more of a connection and allow people to really get to the heart of what you're about sooner. And then we're also going to talk a little bit about, okay, once you have a story that connects, that can go deeper, what else could you do with that, right? So getting into the habit of not just seeing a story as a one-off thing, but learning to look at it from different perspectives and saying, okay, if this is something that resonates, how many different ways could I utilize it across different platforms, different styles of media, different rooms that you may be in and out of when networking, when interviewing, things like that. So it's not just about having a good story, but it's also important to know where to apply that story and how many different ways to flip it. Anything else, Shannon?
No, I think you covered it all.
Awesome. So Allison, the brave, audacious, we may even say, Allison has raised her hand and said, I will get into the hot seat. So we're going to keep it simple and just start with the question. Tell us about yourself. What do you do?
Okay. Well, as you heard, I'm Allison. I'm CEO and co-founder of Area Hub. And before I tell you about myself, let me tell you a little bit about the reasons behind Area Hub. Is that okay?
Love it.
Okay, great. So at Area Hub, we hear more and more from businesses that are being impacted by the environments or climate in their areas, whether it's because they lost a building to a tornado or a wildfire, or because they can't insure one of their locations in Texas anymore, or possibly, and actually most frequently, because they're being affected by roof and window damage due to severe storms. So putting this in a broader context, last year, there were 28 different climate or extreme weather events that each involved more than $1 billion. And that number is 55% higher than it was in 2022. So a big increase. And so when you think about it, businesses are really being impacted by their areas much more than ever. They're facing much higher insurance costs in so many cases, and at the same time, having less coverage for that insurance. And they're receiving tremendous pressure from many different directions in terms of having more robust climate disclosure. So we built Area Hub, and Area Hub is an environmental risk management platform that covers the entire US and enables businesses to understand their areas, all of their locations areas, regardless of where they are. So to step back for a second in terms of why we built it and the personal story, which is what you asked about, I grew up on a farm. along the Severn River in Maryland. I have loved nature ever since. But the specific reason that I came up with the idea or the catalyst behind Area Hub was the fact that I heard about a contamination leak in my county. And it got me thinking that I really didn't understand many of the facts around where my family and I lived. So I came up with a broad list of questions that I wanted answered to understand, not just about climate, but about pollution and other things. And after working my intense job, and after settling the house down, I would go online and I would sit for hours in front of the computer trying to research those answers. And what it showed me was that the information I was seeking was really hard to find and research. It was dispersed and it was sometimes hard to navigate. So when I spoke with several other people who became my co-founders, we decided to build and launch Area Hub. And we did. And we cover not just climate, but also infrastructure, industrial pollution, and other information for the entire nation. So we help our clients assess new potential locations and monitor and manage their existing locations. And I think I'll stop there. I could go on, but I think that that gives you probably more than enough to go on in just a few minutes. Is that good?
It's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I've got lots here. Shannon, you want to start?
Yeah, and we can bounce back and forth here.
Yeah.
I thought that was great. I love how you define the problem. You talk about how your solution solves that problem. You share your personal story and your personal attachment to it. I'm hearing, as someone who's an entrepreneur that's also done a lot of pitching to investors, I'm hearing a lot of those typical investor pitch steps in there that you're talking about and you're hitting
Yep.
on.
Mm-hmm.
What I would suggest is that instead of starting with the problem statement, which is really the typical investor pitch type of way to come out of the gate, that's what they all say, problem, solution, and then go from there, is when someone asks you who you are or what do you do, is to start with your story first, because your story to me was very compelling. Your love for nature and your why for starting your company was very compelling. And that's how you're going to hook people in, is letting them see the you in your story. And then you can lead into the problem, the solution, and go into what I call the beyond the 60 portion of it, right? That first 30 seconds or 60 seconds is what you really need to hook people in and get them interested and continue the conversation with, tell me more. I'd really
Mm-hmm.
love to learn more about that. There's a problem there. Tell me more about that problem that you're seeing. Oh, okay. And how are you solving that problem? It's getting that hook in that first 30 to 60 seconds, which is your really compelling personal story, and then moving in to those next steps of problem solution. And honestly, even though I've been in front of several rooms of investors that always say problem solution, then the rest, the most compelling pitches, the people that I've seen get to those next steps, are the ones who start with the personal story and the personal attachment first, because it shows your why. What's your why for doing this? So that would be, I would say, flip that around. Jen, what are your thoughts?
Well, first, Allison, what are you hearing in that?
I'm here. Well, I'm wondering about you asked me to talk about myself. Most people never do. So in the context where someone asks you to talk about yourself, then I totally agree. That makes perfect sense. In the context of doing a pitch, like for, a pitch night or a demo day, or just, in front of VCs or whatever, I don't know. I'm not sure. So I get that you've got to hook them in the first 30 to 60 seconds. And so if you were seeing my deck, you'd see images of tornadoes and things like that. And that might hook people because they may be able to relate more to that than my story about growing up along a beautiful river on a farm. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a time and place for all of it.
Mm-hmm.
Inside of a stories that connect hot seat edition, we're going to guide you to the thing that like really is going to connect to the personal. I agree with Shannon. I've been in a lot of those rooms where the feedback, and I'm in conversation with investors a lot as someone who, trains business owners to do this. Their feedback is always what Shannon just said. I hook in when the personal comes up.
Okay.
But here, and yes, and also,
Mm-hmm.
what worked about what you did for me is you did start with the why of the company, right? So even though it wasn't your personal why, you still brought us to a why. So I asked, what do you do? And as you should, you ignored the what and went to the why,
Love it.
which is one of the hooks for sure. And I loved hearing not only the why of the company, but knowing how topical it is, right?
Mhm.
How urgent this conversation is. And those are the pieces that when you're not in a professional setting, and even sometimes when you are, how can you take that moment and bring it? I know it's topical, but how can we make it even more topical to the most recent thing that happened?
Mhm.
Even if there was something in the area, right, that we
Right.
have all experienced, because that will also create a connection. So meeting people where they are, knowing the experiences that they've had, can help it not feel like, oh, she's given this pitch a million times.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yep. That's a
The
really good
other
point.
piece, I heard Aaron Brockovich of damages caused by climate issues, right? When you started talking about your personal story and what you noticed, right? That leak, I was like, she's fucking Aaron Brockovich. She's over here. She devoted her entire life, built a company, right? So as soon as you said that, and this is why I hooked in, because I love her and women who embody that energy. Because I immediately was like, I'm buying in to this woman. She has been fighting like that since she was little.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. Where do I sign? How do I get involved? How do I learn more? So if we were playing with um framing you as that energy from the jump, you're now saying, without saying, I'm about to lead this conversation, right?
Mm.
I'm about to take you on a ride and
Mhm.
tell you why this is so important.
Yeah.
And then it kind of becomes a weaving of your story and the company story all in the same conversation.
Right. Huh. Two things I didn't get into, which I'd love to kind of throw out there to get your reactions.
Yeah.
One is the reason it's not just climate, but it's pollution and infrastructure is because this company, unlike the others, is very multidimensional. It looks at the intersectionality of how things in your area will be impacted by, say, extreme events and how they can be threatened or jeopardized in a way that could disrupt you, not only harm you from a financial perspective, but also disrupt your operations, say if power goes out, or affect your health and safety because of the dispersion of pollutants that can occur when there's a wildfire, tornado, or flood, or what have you. And so that's really why we're as broad as we are. We're well over 30 topics that we
Yeah.
cover all the time for the
Mhm.
entire country because we are thinking multidimensionally and we want people to really be able to prepare, mitigate, and contemplate as they're proactively reacting to something, what they need to be worried about and doing. And so
So
that's one. Go ahead.
yeah, I think a way to, since you have all of this like umbrella, this big umbrella of what you cover, when you're talking to somebody, remember, we're here to connect, right?
Mhm.
The point isn't tell me everything you do. The point is connect with me. So then a question that you could throw back to me is, where did you grow up? Where do you live now? Because that could lead to you knowing about that area. Oh, a recent thing that happened there, or something that we see coming down the pike for these kinds of areas is XYZ. And that
Okay.
could bring you to one of the areas that you work on. And in that saying, listen, this is just one of
Mhm.
30 different ways that we tackle this. Um, but you're so informed and informative that it can quickly cause me, someone with ADHD, to be like, whoa, this is a lot of information coming to me at once, and then I struggle to connect even though I want to.
Okay.
Yeah.
So beware of overwhelm.
Yes.
Exactly.
And that's a
Okay.
very important point is that a lot of times as entrepreneurs, We want to share all the things that we're working on because it excites us. It lights us up. We know it inside and outside and can talk about it for hours on end and not get bored with it. The thing is, when it comes to our audiences, the key is just to pull them in and connect on a human level, get their interest, hit them with the points, like Jen said, that are most important to them. I like the idea of the question of where did you grow up? So for example, if you're having a conversation with me, I grew up in Florida. I grew up with hurricanes all the time. I grew up having to figure out my wedding around hurricane season on the beach in Florida, right? So when you understand the person by asking one or two simple questions in that course of conversation, that helps you to steer and flip the script on the stories that you're telling. So it's one story, but you're choosing which one of those 30 topics to cover within that story. Because if you hit them with all 30, you're going to lose them. You might have them for the first one or two, but you hit 3, 4, 5, and that's when the glaze over starts to happen. That's when people start to disengage. So it's about understanding who the audience is, what's important to them, adapting the story, and then basically but wait, there's more. I'm not going to dump all of the more on you right now, but I'm going to let you know that I just gave you the tip of the iceberg here. And there's a lot more that we do in addition to that. And if you can make that connection with them, then they're going to want to know more. That's what's going to lead to a deeper conversation. And that's where that storytelling comes in. There's a lot more we could talk about, but I'm going to stop there and ask you, where are you sitting with all of this at this point in time?
Makes total sense. People comment on how much broader, how much more we offer, but it does kind of overwhelm them. And I think they get a little dazed. And I think that you're really touching on something that I need to start incorporating and having the team incorporate so that we can make it more personally digestible and resonant. So that sounds really good. Very helpful feedback.
Good. Yeah,
amazing.
I actually just finished a full day's training with a sales team last week. And part of that training was shut up and listen, right? Do less talking, do more asking. And then when you do talk, make sure it's pointed towards their interests, what they want, what they need, what they care about. Because at the end of the day, people are connecting with people and buying from people. The products and services, unless you are the only one in the market and have that monopoly, those can be, people can go elsewhere. But if they know you, like you, trust you, if you've shown that you can connect with them on an emotional and personal level and bring their interests into the stories that you're telling, it's just going to change everything for the way that you position yourself and your company going forward.
Well, thank you.
Really great work. Thank you for being willing to step up and be the first one.
Well, I'm sorry if I took too much of the time from other people. So I'll right now, but thank you very much.
Yeah,
fantastic. Great work.
Marcia, I see your hand is up. Did you have something you wanted to add?
So, Allison, are you from Anne Arundel County by any chance?
Am I what?
Are you from Anne Arundel or Calvert County?
I'm from Anne Arundel County, of course. No, I shouldn't say of course.
Okay, but it's funny that you said that. You know what? That probably be my next talk, maybe my other life, because I live in the District of Columbia. I live right out Route 50. Yeah. So our community, where we live at Ward 5, we have the most industrial facilities in the area. So I'm very involved in environmental justice. I'm with my environmental justice colleagues. They want me to be on the committees and all of that, because environmental justice, not only that, but we want to talk about how having those facilities in our communities is bringing on a lot of respiratory illnesses and cancers. We have some of the highest breast cancer rates in the city. And although most people have health insurance, we tend to get more cancer. And where I live at, Allison, I met this young lady who's a professor at Trinity University. She's going to bring a friend of hers from Hopkins who actually has a tester. I said, can you come test our soil? Because we've had 6 neighbors in my little cul-de-sac in our row who died from cancer. I said,
wow.
No, seriously, because let's just call it for what it is, environmental racism.
That's
Right.
that's right.
They don't care about people of color. They build stuff. So
That's
they're
right.
building a new rec center where I live at. I said, what kind of materials y'all using? I said, where's the EIS? I'm sorry. Now
Yeah.
that I'm more informed, so my goal, my next talk probably be on informing people and talking about the importance of understanding what's going on in your community. Because had I known that 31 years ago when I bought the condo about the environmental situation, I probably wouldn't have bought there. Because that should be all a part of what you're looking for besides schools and transportation and all of that. You should be looking at the materials and what's around it, and like the cancer rates and the respiratory illnesses and things of this nature. So thank you, Allison, for bringing that up.
Well, I think that we love to help organizations that are trying to work on these issues. We think that we've put together information that's incredibly helpful, not just for climate resiliency or adaptation or various things like that, but also environmental justice, social justice. So, hopefully we'll reconnect after this call too at some point. I'd love to talk with you further. And I love Maryland. I have strong Maryland roots, and I will always love Maryland.
Oh yeah. So you could share with them because I'm gonna need to hop off and get back to work. But I definitely want to get with you because I work with Empower DC. So
Okay,
thank
great.
you. You can forward my information to them. Thank you.
Amazing. We'll make sure to make that connection. Thank you, Marcia.
That is the
Marcia.
power of storytelling right there. Connection
Look at that.
made. Live.
Allison, I'm actually from Maryland originally. I'm from Baltimore County.
Oh, you are. I have relatives all over
Yes.
Baltimore. You probably know a lot
Yeah.
of my relatives.
Well, maybe. I mean, I haven't lived there since a long time, but I grew up there. I went to high school there, so I just found that
Wow.
really interesting. And I'm an architect, so in terms of like the whole environmental thing, it is important to me. So maybe we can connect later.
I'd love that. That'd be
Oh,
great.
more connections.
Thank you. Oh
Love
my
it.
Look at
God.
this.
Love it.
Look at this. Look at stories that connect.
Stories
in
that
real time.
connect. We're literally
on.
connecting in real time.
Does anybody else want to jump into the hot seat?
And welcome, Bruce.
Yes, welcome, Bruce. You certainly do not have to. Okay. Going once, going twice. Youngie, you sure you don't want to talk about yourself? Your work?
I don't want to talk about myself in terms of the speech. I was part of, in case for those of you who don't know that, I did the Drop the Mic night
Yeah, you
speech
did.
competition.
Audience
and that was
favorite
really
in our
terrific.
presence, everybody.
And I actually thought I thought I was gonna be nervous, but once I was standing up there, it's actually fine, kind of.
Mhm.
And I was a little surprised because there have been moments in my life where I've had some performance anxiety, like recently, not even that recent, maybe 5 or 6 years ago. My kids play a lot of piano, and I was like learning how to play just because it was easy enough for me and I could figure out a lot of stuff. And I had a recital that for me turned out disastrously because it wasn't quite perfect. And so there's always that kind of expectation, but I feel like I was locked in, so I was pretty psyched about that. But nonetheless, regarding my story, as an architect, I mean, I'm not actually, I mean, I may be, hopefully in the future, I'm not pitching, very large companies, but I would like to eventually. And so I wonder, there's a couple of things, what you would do then for me in terms of how you approach this. I understood what you said about speaking less. When you do not try to cover everything. And when you do speak, it's actually more about the other, the other party, whatever their needs are, bringing something relevant to whatever's been happening lately or to the particular project. Oh, hi, Christine. But I just wonder, I don't know. I just kind of wonder in general what else you would kind of add in terms of advice for me, in terms of pitching. A lot of times our pitches are more one-on-one with
Don't
clients.
think of it as a don't think of it as a pitch.
Okay.
This is just a
Pitch the
conversation where I ask you, hey, what do you do? Tell me about yourself.
Okay.
And let's see what comes out.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll give you an example of a story, right? I had a client that was CEO, came to me about 2 weeks before a big presentation that he had. It was a make or break presentation with a big potential client. There had been some initial discussions, but this client was flying into Mexico. He was meeting them there at their facility there and was going to be talking to them, giving a presentation to try to close this deal. And I got to know him a little bit before we started digging into it. And so I could discover his voice and how he talked and his likes and his dislikes. And one of the things he told me was that he hated when people just launched into a sales pitch and started talking all about the history and this and that, and this is what we can do for you, and this is why we're so amazing, and here's all the awards we've won. And then he sat down to give me the presentation, and it was exactly that.
I was going to
It
say.
started out with the history of the company and all the things that they do and their different divisions. And I let him go for like 3 or 4 slides. And then around, I think it was around slide 4 or 5, I stopped him and I said, I have to stop you. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Can I ask you who created this presentation? And he said, my marketing department. And I said, I
Time to fire them.
I can tell this is not in your voice. This is not the way you have been talking with me and presenting to me so far. And it's not ringing true and authentic to you. I said, you told me when we first spoke that you hated when people do this to you. So why would you do this to them? And he said, you're absolutely right. And he goes, so what do we do? This is my presentation. They've made the slides. All the notes are there. And I said, that's up to you. We can adapt it. We can shuffle it around, or we can burn it to the ground, as Michelle said in her presentation, and start over. And so there were pieces of it that we kept, but we burned a lot of it down, and we threw all that history and stuff into an appendix in the back. And we focused on, what did your client say was important to them, or your potential client say was important to them? What do they want to know in this meeting? What is the purpose of this meeting? And what is your objective? What do you want to get out of this meeting? And when we honed in on that, the whole presentation changed. We had like a week and a half to change this entire presentation and refocus it. And we did that, and we practiced it. And it went from, we'll meet a couple of times beforehand, to meeting every single day beforehand to get it done, but we got it done. And then he went in there, he used that different approach of just welcoming them, talking to them, thanking them, reviewing, this is what you told me you said you were interested in, this is what you said was important to you, that's what I plan on covering today, is there anything else you want me to talk about? And we took it from there. And so he focused specifically on what their wants and needs were, and then close the deal. So it's important to stop, ask, listen, and then not speak until you've repeated that process several times, enough to collect the information from the client or potential client of what's important to them. And then you turn around and talk about those things. And then if they want to go beyond that, that's when you add the extra stuff. But chances are, if they're in the room with you, they've researched you, they've gone to your website, or they've been referred to you, they understand who you are and what you do and your reputation. And so you don't need to rebuild that for them and shove it all down their throats. At that point in time, it's giving them what they want and they need, so you can seal that deal.
And that's in the pitch arena, right? I want you to be here in this room and talk to me, talk to Shannon, talk to Allison, talk to Christine. Just, what do you do?
Yeah. Now another question I have is,
Oh,
like,
wait, just answer.
You want me
just
to answer that question? Oh, what do I do?
Yep.
Well, our tagline is, we make your built world, sorry, we make your built world a better place. So, you know, we investigate what people need in terms of their environment, whether it's work or, you know, residential. And we try to make the best out of whatever it is that they have. Sometimes we get there early so we can troubleshoot beforehand, or tell about problems, caveats, issues that they should be aware of. But I mean, we're very much in the service industry in that way. You know, and so I think I would say, because someone was asking us about like what makes us different. It's definitely the amount of, I would say, effort we go through in understanding our client, everything that they do. So if it's a daycare, how they run, who their clients are, like what's the day-to-day activities, where do they want to also see growth, just all of that stuff. You know, also even education, what do you call, how they decide to educate the children. And then for, let's say, if it's private, it's like, what are you doing in your life, with or without your family? What do you want to do? It
Mhm.
also can be aspirational, because sometimes the limits of your own environment prevent you from doing things that you really want to do. And you just need to be set up for it in order to make that happen.
Can I ask you a
Tell me,
question?
go ahead, Shannon.
Yeah, can I ask you a question, Youngie?
Of course.
When I saw you present at
Uh-huh.
WPN, you shared a lot of stories and examples of projects. How
Yes.
can you couch what you just told us in a story?
Oh,
Through an example, show, don't tell.
right. I mean, I can give you an example. There was a client we had, they were going to combine 2 apartments, for instance, and they told us how they wanted to combine them. It was like a linear apartment on one side of the building, and then they were combining it with another linear apartment. So if it's railroady, so it'd be like you walk in, there's bathroom, kitchen, dining, living, or dining, sort of living, bedroom, whatever, how they did it. And the other one switched it. And they're like, okay, we want to have this here and that there. And so, of course, we always look at the solution that the client asks for, because that's part of our job. But inevitably, we think like, that's a terrible idea. No, not, you know, not that we think it immediately. Sometimes we do. And then we're like, oh, I think we can make this better. And so inevitably, of course, we do. Instead of doing the 2 linear spaces that say bedrooms along this side and all the public space around that side, public meaning kitchen, dining, you know, whatever, so some methods. We actually opened it up this way. So not this way, but this way. And so we actually blew their mind away, because they're like, it was so different from anything that they said they wanted, that they were confused. So they said, okay, we have to think about this. Understandable. Oh, the husband was actually a real estate broker. So he knew space, actually.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, they had to still think about it because it was mind blowing. And then, of course, they come back and you're like, yeah, this is much better, incredibly better. And so we actually find out what people want and need despite whatever they're saying. That could be another tagline.
Yes.
Clean it up. But you know what I mean? It
Um,
really is true. No matter what you're saying, we're going to find out what you really need and want.
Yep.
So,
Okay. So the 180 that just happened in your
Mhm.
energy, in your
Mhm.
presence, in
Mhm.
like, I got you. I was like, there she is, the one that was just on stage the other night. That energy, not only did your energy shift and you were lit up, I could tell that you were having fun telling this story. I got a little behind the scenes of like how architects think sometimes, and they're like, that's a terrible idea, but
Yeah.
okay, you know, we'll talk about it. And
Yeah.
then you position yourself as the expert. We hire experts because we don't know what we don't know. I can only look at this space in one way. And what you showcased is you can come in and even work with someone who knows space, right? Someone who
Yeah.
walks through spaces all the time. He knows what he likes and what he doesn't like. And you still had him go, oh shit, I wouldn't have thought about it that way. And that's why you work with experts, not just execute my idea, hear my idea, and then tell me how it could be so much better.
Yep.
Okay.
So that, I mean, that story, it was succinct. Your energy was there. You had me, you positioned yourself as an expert. I mean, brilliant. So good.
I
Yeah.
feel like I have a lack of self-awareness. I have to just tell you that. I mean, you said in the course of our whole, you know, our meetings together, like
Yeah.
you know what do you know what I mean? Like I can't step out of myself. When you say you're deadpan, I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. Or like, you know, but
That's common though, that
is it
people don't
common?
All of us.
necessarily, yeah,
Okay, it's not
absolutely.
like a sociopathic kind of thing or whatever. It's
No,
more
no,
like
no,
it's just like
no, you're not giving sociopathic at all.
You're
Don't
not
worry.
the poison dart frog.
but you know what I mean. You know what I mean. You're kind of like,
I do. I
Yes.
do.
Yeah.
But also that's what, you know, as you are the expert in your field, that's what Shannon and I do. And we're here to help people see themselves in your stories and the way that you are moving through space differently.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
people don't, they are not trained to see things in this way, just like people aren't trained to see space the way that you are.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shannon, what about you?
Yeah, I agree. Complete 180. And that's why I said, let's turn around and couch it in a story. And
Yep.
I want to ask, do you feel and see the difference between talking about what you do in a more task-oriented, step-by-step way versus sharing a short, succinct story that says all of that and more in
I
one?
completely see it. I think I may have semi-articulated it to myself, but I never conscientiously did so. And so, because, like if you network or you meet a lot of people, I think it is important, as you say, to have a lot of stories in that sense.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Having a
You
story
actually need
bank.
to make stories, I
Yes.
think. And a part of my reason for coming in here, I was like, what other stories can one make, or where are there ideas where we can get story, you know what I mean? Like, what are other things
Yes.
that could motivate us to have stories? And then, as you said, create a story bank, because people, I mean, you're a comedian, so you need a big story bank,
Yeah.
you know? And I guess we all do.
Yeah,
That's right.
absolutely.
That's right.
Yeah.
In our
Because
day to day. And one thing to remind ourselves of is we may think, oh, I've told this story a million times.
I do, yeah.
But even though you've told it a million times, it's the first time the other person's hearing it, right? And the more
Yes.
you tell it, the better you're going to get at it. The more the story is going to grow and develop. You're going to think of different details to insert. And this is where you can start to flip the script on that story and tell that story from different perspectives, right? For different audiences. And that's where we're going to be working on that and that flip the script program that you signed up for as well.
I
So
did sign up for it, yeah.
yes.
we're
Saw
so
that.
excited to work with
Excited
you.
to have you.
And I think
Yeah.
that's just the most professional transition I've ever heard, Shannon. Why don't we just go right into letting everybody know about Flip the Script, those who don't know and those watching the replay. We have a 3-hour virtual workshop coming up on Tuesday, July 9th called Flip the Script. You're seeing a taste of how we will approach this. But what else? What else do we want them to know, Shannon, about Flip the Script?
Oh, they have a coupon to save $50 if they sign
Yes.
up within the next 24 hours. So by tomorrow, if you will send you an email with the replay and all of that. And in there will be the coupon code that you can use to sign up by the end of day tomorrow and save that $50. It's normally $197. You'll get it for $147. And we have one spot left for guaranteed one-on-one coaching or two-on-one coaching with Jen and I. We're going to be using a similar kind of group coaching hot seat format, but the first 10 who sign up, and 9 have already signed up since Tuesday evening, the first 10 who signed up are guaranteed that
Feedback.
two-on-one hot seat time. The rest of you will still get some, and if we have time for more than 10, we'll make sure that those additional get their time in the focused hot seat, but there will be breakouts. There will be time that everybody is going to have an opportunity to learn and grow through this process.
Mm-hmm.
What else, Jen?
Yeah. I just, we're really touching on the heart of why learning the muscle of flip the script is important, because the only reason you should be talking is to connect, right? And then sometimes the way to connect is to shut up, right? We've been over that as well. But
What? Not if I want to hear the sound of my own voice?
well,
Yeah, that's what I was gonna try.
then you become a speaker and a comedian and you have every reason to grab a mic. But, it's important for us to show up for our business, for our marketing on a regular basis. And it's so much easier to do that when you're inspired by your content, when you feel like genuinely excited to tell your stories, when you feel confident, this is gonna land. I know this room. I have the stories. That's part of what I get excited about as a comedian, going into different rooms in different areas of the country, different parts of the world, and then being like, okay, how's this one going to land here? So there's an athleticism to storytelling that can become really energizing. It's not just, okay, get your elevator pitch and memorize the shit out of it and then become your own AI robot out in the world. This is really about learning how to engage differently with the importance of taking up space, the importance of grabbing the proverbial mic and being active and engaged in the world, because everybody on here does important work. The people who are attracted to the work that Shannon and I do are usually very mission driven. And then those are also the people who are very precious with their messaging. They want to make it perfect before they take up space. And then there's the morons out here screaming at the top of their lungs, taking up all the space. So we want to give you the strategies and the technique to be one of the voices out here and cut through the noise of what we don't need any more of. So I put the link in the chat. You will be getting the replay, $50 off with that promo code hot seat for the next 24 hours. Any other reflections from Youngie, Allison, anyone else, Christine, Bruce, Jonathan? What have you heard today? What worked about this? What excites you? Anything you want to share before we hop off?
You're inspiring as always, both of you.
Thanks, Christine.
Thank you.
Great clarity, really insightful comments, and fantastic energy as always.
Okay.
Okay.
And with
Very helpful,
that,
Peggy.
Go
thank
ahead,
you for being
Jonathan.
here, Jonathan.
Thanks. All right. Any final questions?
So I would say in terms of, I'm not saying, I don't want to say homework to discourage everyone. I mean, I mean, more
Youngie's
like,
that person in the classroom. Before summer break, is there anything
how
we
come we
should
don't have any
read?
homework? No, I'm kidding.
I
Did you
call
send
it
us homework?
speak work. I call it speak work because it helps you grow your
Okay.
speaking.
Okay.
I
What's the
was
question?
actually I did like to sit in the back of the classroom and I was a smart ass. I just want to let you know that. I wasn't
believe that.
like, all sort of like me. So
I believe
anyway, so
Does not shock me.
the question is, so we should kind of think about if we can figure out our mission, we should think about examples. Is that correct?
Mhm.
Of how we've been able to achieve our mission. And that is part of kind of what we should be doing, I presume. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Or how
And
we've solved different problems, stories about how we've resolved
yes.
things.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes it easier.
The
Wherever
formula
you
that I teach and have people work off of is, how do you do what you do? Why do you do what you do? And what's next in what you do? The what's next, what's the bigger vision? What would you be scared to tell me it's so big, or that you don't know how you're going to figure it out? Because those are the kinds of stories that also people connect to. They buy in, they might be able to help you. And then it just becomes like a really energized conversation. So how, why, what's next are other areas that you can look for stories.
And when
Yeah.
you say, what are you scared to do? Meaning like,
Well, I'm just meaning that sometimes people have a hard time even sharing their big vision because they're just like, I have no idea if this is even possible. And again,
okay,
going back to my whole like taking up space, giving yourself permission to tell these stories and not necessarily have the answer, but this is just something that excites you. The point is connection. And when we show vulnerability through like, this is really exciting. And also like, who's the booker to Madison Square Garden though? Because like, I really am trying to build a conversation with them. Now you're just from me saying that,
yeah,
right? It's like, oh, okay, that's where she's headed. Oh, all right. Yeah. I want to get on her train. She's going to Madison Square Garden. Awesome. I'm there.
okay.
like, hey, Jen, I want to do this thing called drop the mic night.
Exactly. Like,
You wanna do it?
exactly.
And when we
Exactly.
start putting things out into the world with intention, it starts to make us realize, hey, I can do this. And you start to see people gathering around your vision and your mission. And it starts to hold you accountable as well to following through with those things that you're sharing. And I would just add to what Jen said is I always recommend that you think about your passion or what you do in terms of your passion, not just the what, not just the tasks, but what lights you up, what gets you excited about it, right? And your
Right.
purpose, right? Why do you do what you do? Because that's what people are connecting with, and that's where those stories are going to come from. And really, the power of storytelling is showing instead of telling. And this translates in a pitch, this translates on stage, this translates on your social media or content or website that you're publishing. This translates in an interview, whether it's a podcast interview or a job interview or a television interview. All of these things start to translate through that storytelling and the show, don't tell aspect of things. And then really sharing your passion, purpose, vision, mission, that big high in the sky, seemingly unfathomable what's next for you. And it really starts to bring your world together and lets people connect with you through those stories. And just every story you can think of, just jot it all down. Doesn't matter. You may not think you're going to use it, but you never know when you're going to come back to that story and when it's going to be relevant.
Interesting.
Right.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Terrific. So it's not don't ask, don't tell.
It's tell all, tell all, tell all. Keep writing, keep writing,
Yeah,
keep
I
writing.
think I want to say, I think sometimes when you say what you want to do or it's something you're scared of or something you want to push, it's like, I think there's definitely a fear of failure, so you just kind of keep it quiet.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. But when you become the person who starts that conversation, oh, the conversations get so good. And now your corner of the room is the one that everyone's gathered in.
Okay.
Amen to
All
that.
right.
All right, y'all. Well, we hope to see
Thank
you. A
you.
lot of you here will be there at the workshop, and everyone else who's watching, we hope to see you there.
All right. Thank you
Absolutely.
so much. That's
Have
terrific.
a great
Thanks.
evening, everybody. Thanks
Okay.
for coming.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank
Bye.
you so much.
You're
Bye-bye.
welcome. Thanks for playing.